had a very rocky marriage and went through a really nasty divorce. And the kids were pretty much asked to choose where they wanted to go.
Oh, that sucks.
I think it really just screwed everybody up. So, some of them, Josh and one of his brothers went with his dad, and there was like 3 or 4 other siblings that stayed with the mom, but they would go back and forth every once in a while. It just really, really screwed him up, I think. The other thing that I want to note, they were both part of the Mormon Church, which everything that I know of the Latter-day Saints, women take a very secondary role in some things. The men are the leaders of the family, and I think that can be said in other religions as well. But I do think that I don't want to say that they're naive, but
It's a very
it almost
vibe.
is. Women are almost naive about some ways that a relationship should really work and how it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
I could see a young 19-year-old, very idealistic about, starting a life together. And some of these things just didn't send up warning flags for her. Yeah. So kind of go along. After they're married, they live with Stephen for a while. That's Josh's dad. He absolutely, and I'll get into it. I don't want to spoil alert, but this guy is the fucking worst. Susan demands that they leave there because his dad was basically a perv. After a few more moves and Josh basically being a loser, they eventually moved to a small suburb outside of Salt Lake City near Josh's mom and sister. And Susan just really hopes that Josh will get his shit together and can keep a job, because at this point he either is unemployed or he gets fired or he just doesn't look for work.
Yeah.
He's not motivated. She's been the breadwinner for the most part. Eventually, they're able to purchase a house, but Susan becomes the only person in the house with a paying job, and she struggles to keep up on the bills. And Josh just he can't be bothered to work, and he has really spendy financial habits. In 2005, Charlie, their first son, is born, and friends kind of note that Josh starts changing his personality a little bit. They at that point they were kind of going to church and trying to do the right thing as far as being married together and how they handled each other. And he just starts ignoring. He doesn't want to go to church anymore, number one. And to Susan, that's kind of a deal breaker, but it really isn't, because she doesn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But it's important to her. And she feels that it's important to go as a family, and he just doesn't want to have any part of it. But he also starts ignoring the fact that he is responsible for a child. Then their second son, Braden, is born in 2007. At this point, their relationship is just strained. Family friends paint a picture where Josh was just incredibly controlling. He gives her no access to the finances. Mind you, she's basically the only one contributing to the finances. Yeah, she's
bringing in all the money, but he's controlling it all.
Basically.
And
so
she doesn't get any.
She gets a little small, allowance. And out of that, she's supposed to feed the family, feed her and the kids, because Josh will go buy his own snacks and food, and they're not to touch it. He has this habit of spending money on toys that he doesn't need. So tools, really expensive tools.
Yeah.
Tools that nobody should need. Welding tools. If you're a guy who, and if you were to look at this guy, he's not working with a welder. This dude goes and buys a $700, the whole workup for a welder. Has to have the best, and has to it's got to be the top line. He didn't know shit about it.
Yeah.
He didn't know how to hook it up. He had no idea, but he had to have it.
Yeah.
Had to have tools.
I mean, it'd be different if that was his craft or his trade,
Right.
and I'm going to start going, and doing welding jobs, but I don't even think he was even in a union. Or
No. He's like an IT guy.
Oh.
He at one point he tried to be a real estate agent, and nothing happened of it. He couldn't sell any houses. Then he starts to do like website design.
Yeah.
He does like one large job, and that's all he can claim that he's done.
I'm done for the year.
Basically, he would do something for a little bit, and it was always draining. It was always something that was a project that would drain money.
Yeah.
So, setting up real estate to work from home, you've got to be licensed to do it.
Yeah.
That costs money.
Yeah.
You've got to have the resources to do it. It costs money to set up an office. And she would fund that. She even went so far as getting
controlling the finances.
Right. She even went so far as getting her real estate license so that she could help him.
Oh, that's...
She would go along with whatever he dreamed up. He also, being an IT guy, spent a lot of money on computers. A lot of money on computers, hard drives, storage, and it was an abundance of things.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
I know you wouldn't. Yeah. It was a lot. It was over the top.
I beg to differ, but okay.
Okay, but I mean, here's the thing. They had to file bankruptcy in 2007 because this jackass had racked up over $300,000 in debt.
Jesus.
That's a car. I mean, that's a house.
Yeah, that's a house.
That's could have paid your house off. I don't think that they had a decent house. There wasn't anything wrong with their house. Mm-hmm. They could have paid for the house and bought it in that amount of time. I don't know how you rack up that much debt. Who keeps giving you credit cards?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. So that, should have been a sign to Susan. Later, she documented some of the weird things that he bought in a video that she recorded of the house. The marriage had become so volatile that she began to see that it couldn't go on. And she talks about in her journals how much she wants it to work, but how stressed she is. And then she also talks about how she can help him in their relationship. So even there, I mean, very much a classic situation of abuse. Mm-hmm. What am I doing wrong that makes him not do the right thing?
Yeah.
What is it about me that I'm doing wrong so much that, I don't know that he hit her, but, that's the thing. Like, oh, I'm doing something wrong, so I deserve to be punished. Or I'm doing, all these things that really piss off somebody, so they can't love me the way I deserve to be loved, or I think that I should be loved. It's classic situation of abuse.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking because she sees it, but she never fully does anything about it.
Yeah.
So outside of her husband and kids, Susan Powell was last seen on December 6th by a family friend and neighbor who had come over that afternoon after they had gone to church. It was a Sunday. She was just going to visit for a little bit and do some crafting with Susan. She ended up eating with the family, and it was just a very typical day for Susan. And, they went to church that morning. Then the rest of the day was family time. The weird thing that happened that day was, surprisingly, Josh made pancakes and was serving them up as well as cleaning up after himself. And from what family and friends relay, this is just completely out of character.
That's so odd.
Right.
It's odd behavior for this guy. That's weird.
Because there were times when in Susan's journal, she had documented on her birthday. She came home on her birthday one year. I think it was the year prior to her disappearance. There's a baked cake on the counter, not iced. It's, late in the evening. She got home after doing some overtime at work. The kids are asleep. The house is a mess. He baked a cake, didn't ice it, left the mess, and it was sitting in front of a computer. And when she got home, she says in her journal that he said to her, you should probably ice that. There's no dinner made. She didn't know what the kids ate. There's a half-made cake for her birthday. This is her birthday.
Oh. That's like slap in the face there.
Right.
What a dick.
Right.
I baked you cake, but you probably
you might want to ice it. Yeah. So for him to make pancakes and then clean up after himself, yeah, it sounds completely out of character. Would you not, in your head, think, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
I don't understand. After that, so he kind of gives the friend a hint that she needs to leave. Susan says she hasn't been feeling well for about a week, and she goes and lays down, and the friend, is just kind of there, like, I guess some yarn that they were working on a project had gotten really knotted, so she was trying to untangle it. And Josh was like, hey, you know what? You need to bounce. You need to get out. And she's like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. Just I'll take the yarn with me. Let Susan know if she needs anything, that I can come over and help. So that's really the last interaction that we know that Susan had with anybody.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. The next morning was Monday, okay? Very important. December 7th. Josh and Susan both don't show up to work, and the kids don't show up to their daycare. The daycare provider is so worried when she can't reach them that she goes to the house. She's got kids in her car that need to be dropped off to school. And then she's got kids to stay with her for, they're too young to go to school. She's so worried that she goes out of her way, on her way to drop these kids off to school, to go by their house. So there had been like a large snowstorm that night, the night of the 6th. And there was just snow everywhere. But there were no tire tracks in and out of their driveway. So then she's concerned when she drives by and she doesn't see any sign that anybody has left the house. She's thinking maybe it's carbon monoxide poisoning.
But there's no car there? I don't...
Well, the driveway has no tire tracks, but she's not sure if their car is in the garage or not.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there's a garage.
Yeah, there's a garage.
Okay.
So she calls Josh's mom and sister, and she's saying, I can't sit here, but I think something's wrong. Can you please come over, call the police? I'm kind of concerned. So they get over. His mom asks 911 to come and, send the sheriff.
Yeah.
And when police get there, they kind of think, okay, yeah, it must be, the car didn't make any moves in and out of the snow.
Yeah.
It might be carbon monoxide. So they break a window and they find inside the car is gone. Susan's purse and keys are still there at the house. They're in the living room. There are 2 fans set up, those big box fans, facing each other, kind of around the couch. And it looks like there was maybe a wet spot there.
Yeah.
And it maybe had been cleaned. So right away, it's fishy.
Yeah.
The police put out an APB on the minivan. Eventually, somebody gets a hold of Josh, tells him the police are at the house. I mean, they are calling Josh and Susan's phones all day long.
Yeah.
And this is first thing in the morning, right? Getting kids to school. This asshole shows up at like 7 o'clock.
At night?
At night.
Wow.
And somebody had talked to him a few hours earlier, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm south of town. I'll be there as soon as I can. I got to feed the kids." They're like, "Where's your wife? Where's your wife? Where were you guys?" And he just doesn't say anything. He's like, "Yeah, I got to feed the kids. Kids are hungry." Completely evades all questions. So like I said, eventually he shows up. He's got the boys, but there's no trace of Susan. Josh says that he took the boys winter camping to make s'mores.
That makes sense.
On a Monday when you were supposed to be at work, Susan's supposed to be at work.
And you have daycare.
There was a snowstorm, and he says they left at 12:30 in the morning.
Come on, honey. When you need s'mores, you got to have s'mores. Come on.
Well, apparently this was not out of the ordinary for him to do. They had done this shit before.
Oh. So the whole family or just him and the boys?
Well, apparently the whole family.
Oh,
He'd gone out at one time with just the boys, and then Susan went out a couple of times with them. Not necessarily in the middle of the night, though.
Yeah, but you said
That's
they
the
left
thing.
it. He left at 12:30. He told them he left at 12:30.
He told the police that he left at 12:30.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say either